It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. My name is Michael Evans, and you're listening to America's Voice Now. Well, apparently, they've done it. Our Senate has gone ahead and passed the immigration reform bill. What that means for America is nothing good. It tells us that 14 Republicans, and this is directed to those of you who vote Republican, that 14 Republicans have betrayed our nation. And all of the Democratic representatives or senators gleefully, joyfully, happily signed off on this. The vote was 68 against 32. So here were the 14 GOP senators who voted for the legislation. Each and every one of them should be removed from office. Marco Rubio. Any surprises there? Lamar Alexander from Tennessee. A consistent and common betrayer of oaths. Lisa Murkowski, Alaska. Oh, they have a big immigration problem there. Kelly Ayotte, New Hampshire. This was the darling of the Republican Party. Jeffrey Chesia, New Jersey. No surprises there. Susan Collins from Maine. No surprise there. Bob Corker, Tennessee. Routine trader. Jeff Flake, Arizona. Traitor to the Arizonan state, the nation at large. Combined with his buddy, John McCain. Two people that clearly don't represent their state, which is exactly why the 17th Amendment should be repealed, and the ability of the state legislatures to appoint your state senators should be put back in play. I guarantee you that McCain and Flaky McCain, would not be the two senators from Arizona if the 17th Amendment were repealed. Lindsey Graham, Liver Lips Lindsey, South Carolina. I mean, this is the same guy who came out and said bloggers aren't entitled to a First Amendment protection. This is the same guy who touts and promotes the National Defense Authorization Act every time it comes up. Orrin Hatch, Utah. Orrin, who just won re-election based on millions upon millions of dollars of special interest money. Dean Heller, Nevada. Apparently, Dean's been living in Nevada too long, and the nuclear radiation emanating from that state has gotten to his brain. John Hoeven, North Dakota. Co-founder of the Hoeven-Corker Amendment that basically rewrote the thing and has given free rein to literally perhaps as many as 50 million illegals in our nation. Mark Kirk, Illinois. I have no idea what the heck he was thinking. Probably trying to curry the vote of the power brokers in Chicago. You know, what this tells us is that, and you know, you can call this a theory, because it is, but what this tells me is that the surveillance and the monitoring and all the surveillance that's being gone on with the NSA has reaped a tragic price on our republic. Because this list of senators, not to mention the list of all the Democratic senators, probably would not necessarily all, some of them might have, but I don't think all of them would have voted for this unless somebody somewhere had a skeleton in their closet that they were pointing at their head like a gun. What this tells me is those that aren't corrupted by money and power are compromised by skeletons. And you can disagree with my theory. That's fine. That's why we have this thing called the First Amendment. That's why we have this thing called free will. That's why God gave us this ability to reason and logic. But I ask you, is there any reasonable, logical excuse for their behavior? I don't see one. This isn't a good bill for Republicans. It's not a good bill for the United States of America. ICE has come out. Even immigration agents have come out and begged America to shut this bill down. Now the House is going to vote on it. They say it's a non-starter. But I also know that I've heard some of them speak in reference to it, and I got to tell you, I don't have any faith in these people in the House. Why? Well, because the House just gave us a brand new National Defense Authorization Act for 2014 that promises to be just as draconian as previous NDAAs we've seen before, just as dangerous to Americans, freedom-loving Americans, free-speaking Americans, Americans who actually want to be able to think for themselves, speak for themselves, and act in a manner that will preserve our nation, as if they might actually have something to say about it. I know that those people over in government think that they need to tell us what we should do because they know better. Personally, I find that insulting. I think I got to this age quite well without them dictating the rules to me. And I had a father once. I think he did a fairly good job. I don't need a surrogate mommy and daddy. I think I can handle things from here. And I don't need someone to step up to the plate and say, we're going to act in that regard for you. Things have gotten so bad that even those people who try to come forward are finding themselves jammed up. Former vice chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff is now under investigation for allegedly leaking classified information about a covert cyber attack on Iran's nuclear facility. He's now a target of the probe. You see, this administration is going after anyone and everyone, from the highest to the lowest. Anyone who stands in their way is an enemy. And they're employing all their legal power and multiples of that in illegal power. How many of these senators were corrupted or compromised by information that they didn't want to be put out in the public eye? Doreen's going to join us right after the break. We'll be right back.
The Battery Station in West Plains is your headquarters for getting and being prepared. Natural disasters, civil unrest, personal and family protection, long-term sustenance, and most importantly, peace of mind. Berkey bottles and home-sized water purification systems, survival food, MREs, freeze-dried food, survival knives, lanterns, ammunition, military sleep system, and of course, batteries of all shapes and sizes. Take charge of your own survival and security. The Battery Station, 303 Washington and West Plains, 417-257-7799 or batterystation.com.
Showdown at the Supreme Court. This week on The Alan Colmes Show, the High Court has left its most controversial 4 decisions for the final moment. Prop 8, Defense of Marriage Act, voter ID laws, and affirmative action could all drastically change by week's end. We'll have the latest from the court, plus how one Deep South minister left the church and found atheism, this week on The Alan Colmes Show.
Weekdays 9 to midnight. It's The Alan Colmes Show on the Ozarks Best News Talk, 107.1 The Point.
Well, as promised, we're back. We're joined by Doreen Hannes. Doreen is the author and purveyor of truthfarmer.com, and she is also probably one of the hardest working folks that works along with the PRC groups, and is a frequent contributor to prcnews.org. That is the Property Rights Coalition group that was responsible in large part for helping to organize the effort against the Blueways, and I applaud and thank her for her efforts and her tireless work. She really, once again, has shown that she has undaunting courage, and I'm proud of you for what you do. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. I'm just really sick of it all. How's that?
Tell me about it.
Tell
me about it.
It's been interesting, and I really want to thank all of the people who were active and went out there, met with their county commissioners, spread the information about the Blueways to everyone, and I want to ensure that everybody knows that we have not won this fight. We just won the skirmish. Okay,
and that is the truth, and we haven't even won the skirmish on our home turf. This is the skirmish down in Arkansas that's been won, not even in Missouri.
Well, we've got, we do have a lot of very positive things going on. The only governmental entity on entire Blueways for Missouri is the Department of Conservation.
Right.
As far as pulling other groups from supporting it, Ozarks Water Watch, which is out of Springfield, withdrew their support, but they were not actually one of those who were initially named the nominating committee.
Yeah.
So, we are making progress, but until we get the Secretary to specifically overturn this designation and specifically overturn the Blueways secretarial fiat, we can't, really rest, Mike.
Yeah. Do you know how the meeting went in Greene County?
Yes, they ended up cabling the resolution in Greene County.
Really?
Yes. Now, the reports from Greene County were that it was a very good meeting, but they didn't really feel that the commissioners were likely to actually sign the resolution, considering the withdrawal of support for the Blueway from the stakeholders now. So they thought they just tabled it to just avoid making a decision on it. That's
good representative government, huh?
Yeah. Yep. Well, that's what the reports are. It does remain to be seen what actually happens with it, next week at the county commissioners meeting there in Greene County. We also these are the counties within Missouri that have not yet signed the resolution.
Okay.
Iron County, Carter, Ripley, Douglas, and Greene. Now, Douglas, the issue there is evidently that commissioner is on vacation. So next week they are expected to sign the resolution. However, Carter, Ripley, and Iron need to have people on the ground there, people who are within the area, go in and meet with those commissioners.
Have they not had a presentation done for them in or either their respective RPC or individually?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I think that Iron County, I believe, received information from Darrell Skiles from Dent County, the presiding commissioner there. Ripley and Carter are very, very low population counties, and there is a lady that is presumably going to go and meet with the county commissioners next week in Ripley County, and I've got nothing from Carter.
Mm-hmm.
So, those are the counties where I guess we have the least amount of people who are actively interested in protecting their freedoms and their property rights.
I just cannot imagine anyone who would understand what's happening and then determine that it's okay to not take action of some sort.
Right.
I mean,
right.
If you see this, and that's like standing there in the middle of the street when a gang of people is coming down that intend to do you harm and not taking action to get out of the way. I mean,
I just don't have the energy to lift my foot.
Right, exactly. I think I'll just stand here and see what happens.
Right, so in those counties, if your listeners have friends or family over there, they need to really get on them to go and take action. I mean, the bottom line about all of this, Mike, and I think that this is a good example that bears out my mantra. It all comes down to the consent of the governed, Mike.
Yeah.
I mean, if we won't
only
up,
if we're willing, right? Only if we're willing to stand up and be counted.
Right, exactly, and to get informed and to actually hold our elected officials accountable for their actions, and if we will do our part and if we will, stand on our own hind legs, as it were, and tell them, no, you're not going to do this, and we're not going to put up with it. You're going to stop acting so stupid with money that's not even yours, things of this nature. We can have some more accountability. I'm not saying it's going to fix it. I don't actually believe there's a political solution to fix our nation at this juncture.
Agreed.
But nonetheless, within our local areas, if we start there.
Well, let's just jump back to that point for a moment, because
okay.
I agree with you in the sense that there's no political solutions here. We're not going to be able to solve this with a 2014 election or what have you. But I do believe that there is my concern with, and I've used that statement myself many, many, many times.
Okay.
But I believe that it may be mistaken or misunderstood by some. And I want to correct the record.
Okay.
When I say that there's no political solution, I mean in an electoral format. But I believe that there is a political solution that stops short of violent revolt, because I don't advocate that. I do advocate a peaceful solution here. But it is a bit of a form of political solution, in the form of literally 10, 20, 25 million Americans who stand up and say, we're done with the nonsense and we're not leaving until you do. And take our state capitals and our federal capital and literally swamp them with civilians who are not part of government, who will say, this is the political solution. We are politically taking back our nation. And
right.
While that's not an electoral solution, it is a political solution. And when I say that, because I think a lot of people think, well, political solution versus the resort to violence, right?
Okay.
And that's my point, is I never want anybody to think that violence is the only solution, because then they throw their hands up and say, okay, I guess I'll just go hole up in the woods somewhere. Right?
Right.
And that's
right.
the wrong approach, because you can't just sit here and wait for the imminent end, so to speak, right? I think we need to, one, apply all the pressure that we can while we have an opportunity, but at the same point in time, know that at the end of the day, part of what we're doing is holding back the dikes, so to speak, with our palm, while simultaneously waking up everybody behind us to come and help, right?
Right.
I mean, it has to be a two-part deal there. While we're holding the dike back, we've got to turn around behind us and start yelling the alarm, and hopefully there'll be enough Americans collectively to sit there and keep the pressure, hold the gates shut.
Right.
Because we know that our legislators and we know that our presidential administration and the president himself have sneakily unlocked the gate to allow the barbarians through.
Right.
And then taken the lock with them so that we can't relock it.
That's a good way to put it. Right. And when I say there's no political solution here, I mean, if we get everything controlled by the party of our favor, our choice at that moment, that doesn't fix the basis of the problem, know?
Right.
And so I would agree with you. There is not an electoral solution that
Sure.
I see.
And I think people count on 2014, and they're like, wow, in 2014 we can turn things around. And I'm like, wow, that's like saying, I can redirect this Titanic 80 feet from the iceberg if I just put my spoon in the water and try to use it like a rudder. I'm thinking, really now? Okay, you have a lot of faith.
Well, right, but it still does come down to the consent of the governed, and I think that bears itself out most readily on the local level. And if we continue to be active on the local level and the state level and hold our presently elected officials accountable and out there in the light, then we have a better chance to remain peaceable, Mike.
Sure.
And I'm all for remaining peaceable.
Me too, because the alternative, and I think some people make the mistake of romanticizing what that would look like. If you want to know what that would look like, all you got to do is go look in Syria. All you got to do is go look in Mexico. The drug wars that are going on there. All you've got to do is go look in Syria, where 90,000 people are dead, right? Over infighting, and where the freedom fighter is actually just as bad as the tyrant in power, right? So it's anarchy over there, because when you have a civil war, there is no such thing as good versus evil. There is anarchy. You've got groups that go off and try to meet their own desires instead of achieving some kind of a focused political goal. And, Americans are going to be no different than there's a criminal element in America that would love to see, anarchy and tyranny, right? Right.
And there's nothing civilized about war.
Really? I mean, anybody who thinks this is going to be sanitized is, and it's going to be like they've seen in a TV movie and there's really no bloodshed, is fooling themselves. So, war is never a solution. And I have to say, I mean, the long-term ramifications of that, even were the American people successful, is so detrimental to our ongoing healing that I'm not sure that anybody really quite grasps the implications of that. I mean, with all due respect, we're still fighting the Civil War 150 years later. I mean, let's get real about this, right? People are still holding animosity over the Civil War. Well,
and I mean,
which, by the way, was also about states' rights. Well, but was also about states' rights. And I want to make the clarification there, because when I was a kid growing up in school, they never talked to you about They never talked to you about states' rights in there. Right. They always made the implication that this was really slavery was the motivating factor, and that is an absolute untruth. And I resent the fact that I was misled as a child. And if they were misleading me back in the 60s, what is it like today for these kids who are going to school?
Right.
I can't even imagine it.
In the 70s and 80s, they were still misleading us in the same fashion.
Sure.
So it's been a concerted effort, and it was not about slavery. It wasn't about overturning slavery. It was a monetary issue, because the South wanted to sell their agricultural products to those that they could get better prices from,
it was
and
tariffs.
the North didn't want them to.
It was tariffs and states' rights to be, independent and determine their own future. And slavery actually only came into play when Lincoln needed a shot in the arm to get reelected. And
the political theater side of it,
exactly.
Yes. And
it later on bought him a shot in the head.
Well,
but I mean, the simple truth is, make no mistake about it, the Civil War of the 1860 to 65 was a detriment to our country that will never be never heal, and we can't afford another one of those, regardless of what it's about. So,
Right.
But, our goal should always be to solve it peacefully, and I think we can do that, but we have to have a massive civil disobedience that is not, a few patriots, because, 50 people sitting in a circle singing Kumbaya while they're dragged off in plastic handcuffs and mace in their face is not exactly, what we need. So, folks, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. Lois Lerner, the IRS official who pled the fifth before House committee on the targeting of conservative groups, is herself under scrutiny today when a House committee meets over whether she waived her Fifth Amendment right not to incriminate herself. This a day after the acting commissioner of the agency got a grilling.
Danny Werfel fielding critical questions from skeptical Ways and Means Committee Republicans. Texas Republican Kevin Brady pressing Werfel on the targeting of Tea Party and conservative groups.
And I'm serious about
restoring the integrity of the IRS.
I'm serious about getting to the truth.
Werfel says his initial 30-day review finds no evidence of intentional wrongdoing.
Fox Radio's Jared Halpern. And the president is on his way to South Africa, part of his week-long trip. Whether he'll have a chance to meet the hospitalized Nelson Mandela is uncertain. Fox News. We report, you decide.
Thanks to our friends over at Ozark Mountain Self-Reliance. You can reach Brian down there at 870-492-4030. It's located a half mile east of Walmart on 3225 Route 62, Mountain Home. My dear friend Mary over at Chantilly's Artisan Bakery, the best damn bakery in 100 miles. She's located at number 2 Evans Arcade, and you can call her at 255-2253. My friends over at Pizza Hut on Porter Wagoner Boulevard. They have an outstanding lunch opportunity. You can, from 11 till 2, and you can have salad and pizza, something tasty and something good for you. Our friends Bill Stone over at Stone Construction at 293-0116. If you're considering doing any kind of remodeling, new or custom construction and or light commercial, give Bill a call and let him bid on your next project. Our friends at the Battery Station at 303 Washington Avenue, 417-257-7799. They can be found at thebatterystation.com. Our friends over at West Plains Pawn and Gun, an outstanding opportunity with 400 firearms under glass. You can reach them at 417-256-3000, and they are located at westplainspawn.com. Located physically at Highway 160, about a mile past Walmart on the right-hand side. And finally, the sponsor of our phone lines, Wits End Classic Barbershop, located on the square in West Plains. Best haircut you can get for $10, and a nice young man as well. Please visit and support our sponsors.
If you're looking for great deals on iPads or Kindles, look no further than your neighborhood Radio Shack authorized sales center. They've got great deals on the latest iPads and Kindles. Maybe you need a new GPS or an MP3 player to get your music library ready for those barbecues. Whatever your electronic needs, stop by your local neighborhood Radio Shack authorized dealer in West Plains at 1408 Southern Hills Shopping Center or call 417-256-1819.
Weather sponsorships are now available on News Talk 107.1 The Point. Get more information, email info@diamondmediaradio.com for complete details.
For this morning, a thunderstorm in spots. Any place that is seeing a storm, be alert for severe weather, but then it's going to turn sunny this afternoon. High temperature 90. Mainly clear tonight, low 64. Sunny for tomorrow, high 80. Partly sunny, maybe a thunderstorm Sunday, high 78. I'm staff meteorologist Jim Rinaldi, and for more information, visit my1071thepoint.com.
Most of us will agree that a toothbrush and toothpaste are very low-cost items when compared to major dental repair work. We just know that it's much less painful to maintain with good dental hygiene and checkups than let things go and see what happens. The same is true with vehicle maintenance. Following recommended fluid maintenance schedules and replacing filters before a problem develops is much more cost-efficient than dealing with a transmission or engine breakdown. Stop by or call Don's Auto Service to schedule the services recommended for your vehicle, 1618 Porter Wagoner Boulevard, or 417-256-2752.
All right, we're back. Thanks for riding with us through our commercial break there, folks. The concealed carry course going off with Black Ops School of Combat tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. That'll be held in West Plains, $75 per person. Course is 8 hours in length. You can call Greg McLaughlin at 255-1612. And if you can't make Saturday, make arrangements with him for his next class, or you can make a special arrangement with him for a split class during the week where you could go 4 hours one night, 4 hours another night. So make sure you get a hold of Greg to get your concealed carry permit. Latest news, by the way, is across the state of Missouri, literally the number of concealed carry permit holders have gone up so dramatically in the last couple of months. Because Americans, I think, across the board are becoming aware and getting to realize exactly what kind of a dangerous time we're in. 255-1612 or blackopsschoolofcombat.com. Make sure that you see springcreekbeef.com for the best in grass-fed, 100% natural beef fed the way, or raised the way that they were raised 100 years ago. No hormones, antibiotics, all good and fresh, and you can have it delivered straight to your home by mail. They do ship to across the country, or you can pick it up at local depots where it's available. They're also in the West Plains Farmers Market on Saturday as well. Mary over at Chantilly's at 255-2253. Best damn bakery in 100 miles. Make sure that you get over there and see her. Our friends at Ozark Mountain Self-Reliance have launched their brand new website at ozarksurvivalgear.com. Make sure that you get a chance to get down there and visit with them. They've got all kinds of long-term food storage and preparation products, survival gear, self-reliance gear, and things like that. Make sure that you visit them. Friends over at Pizza Hut on Porter Wagoner, Tuesdays are family nights, and kids under 12 eat free. So they're right on Porter Wagoner, longtime staple of our community. Make sure that you get in there and see those folks. Stone Construction, you can get a hold of Bill at 2930116 if you are considering doing any kind of a construction or restoration project. They cover the gamut from residential, commercial, and industrial. Bill's a great guy and a very true patriot as well. So 2930116 and ask for Bill. West Plains Pawn at 256-3000 on Highway 160. They've got a ton of firearms over there, folks, and all kinds of ammunition and accessories that you need. Make sure that you get a chance to see them. And last but not least, our friend over at Wits End Classic Barbershop, Jason, who's my friend and also my personal hair cutter. As few hairs as I have, it doesn't take him very long. And Jason over there, he can cut my hair in about 3 seconds flat. I don't have much. And he is a sponsor of our phone line. So make sure that you get a chance to see him. It's $10 for a haircut, folks. You can't beat that with a lead pipe. And then make sure that you also see our friends over at Battery Station. Kevin over there is a great friend of ours and a big supporter of this show and has been for a very long time. So make sure that you are patronizing those businesses. If you are one of those people who is trying to get off of the poison of antidepressants, call Kevin. Tell him Mike asked you to call and ask about a method of getting that stuff out of your system. It's like a flush product that he has that'll help you to purge the poisons out of your system, and it's an absolute winner for you, and it'll help you and your children or your husband or your wife or whomever get off of that stuff. So make sure that you do that, and we're looking forward to our sponsors being patronized by you, because that's what they're advertising here for. But in addition to that, they're making sure that they're supporting this program to stay on the air. So, Big Sis, I even hate that term, because when I hear that, first of all, I think to myself, if that was my sister, I'd disown her. But Janet Napolitano is now asking for the same cyber spying powers as the NSA. They've been on this long-running battle between the NSA and the DHS in terms of their power levels, and kind of like rival traders, I guess. Right. And they've been waging this Capitol Hill turf war for forever. And now they are coming out trying to obtain the same powers as the NSA. But there's a problem with that. First of all, most Americans don't realize that the NSA is not already under DHS. But more importantly, the NSA is an intelligence community. The DHS is a law enforcement community. And they have powers of arrest that completely change the entire paradigm. When they are utilizing these types of ultra, spying powers, they're not looking for, international terroristic work and things like that. They're going after everyday Americans because they only have a domestic footprint to operate in.
Exactly.
And based on that statement that came out yesterday about how 29% of the liberal progressive left thinks that Tea Party is the number one terroristic threat in the United States, or to them, even greater than the Islamic threat.
Right.
I'm telling you right now, we cannot afford to let them have anything even close to that because, this is the demonizing of the patriots in America, trying to make it look like we're all, running around, with rifles in the woods and it's just insane.
Right. We're a dangerous militant threat because we support the Constitution and we want proper government.
Who ever heard of such a thing?
So that's some kind of terroristic threat, right?
I mean, but to even think that way, I don't care how twisted ideology has gotten in the last few years, but just to even think that way is beyond comprehension to me.
Well, the issue really comes down to what people are receiving as far as news, what their sources are, and who they believe. And that's what's important. It's like we got to look at the documentation, and that is an issue that I'm 100% on. It's documents, not just, well, gee, what does NPR have to say about this?
Right.
Who do you allow to shape your opinions? Are you using critical thinking? Are you checking all of the sources, or are you just buying it because Glenn Beck or NPR said it?
Right, and parroting someone else's opinion as if it's your own.
Right.
That's the problem with most Americans that I talk to who are not politically aware, right? Is that most of the time they're parroting someone else's opinion instead of formulating their own.
Right, exactly.
And they classify that as, well, I have an opinion. Okay, but where did you get it? I mean, what's your foundation for it? And instead of actually telling you why they believe something, they just reiterate somebody else's talking points that makes them sound as if they have some kind of intellectual understanding of it, and they really don't. And if you ask a couple of key questions, it becomes pretty clear pretty quickly that they really don't have an understanding of why they think that way.
Well, a lot of times, unfortunately, people are so busy with trying to keep food on the table and everything else that they don't have the time to research specific issues. But you just always have to put on your critical thinking cap, and that's it. Just question, always question. Now, the thing about the Tea Party and the fact that 29% of more well-heeled individuals in this country evidently think that the Tea Party is a greater threat than Islamic terrorism. 1 out of 5 government employees sees the Tea Party as a greater threat. And that, the Department of Homeland Security has a lot of employees, Mike.
Right.
And they also have a lot of ammunition.
Right. And they have control of a lot of our infrastructure in terms of our, already having access to telecommunications and things like that. I mean, and when you think about it, when you're talking about 20% of the entire government employment base, well, first of all, that's 20 million people. Right. I mean, when you talk about the total amount of people that work for government in the United States of America, it's 20 million. So if what you're trying to tell me is that 20% of that 20 million, or 4 million Americans who are involved in government, have an axe to grind against patriots, that scares the bejesus out of me.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I mean, really.
It definitely seems to be the sentiment of the day, though.
Yeah, but they're in a position to utilize their power inappropriately and abuse that authority to, grind their own axe, their own biased axe, right? And that is a terrifying. I mean, I get it. You can never have a government that doesn't have people who have their own biased opinion. I mean, because everybody does. But, it's one thing to have a biased opinion and work in government and knowing that the rules say you have to act, objectively. It's another thing when the administration that is over you is basically sending you the message every single day. It's okay for you to abuse that power and authority to achieve that or to destroy that which you don't agree with.
Right. And, and that is a huge problem that we have right now, is that our federal level government, the agencies associated with them, are basically subjecting us to the scrutiny that you would subject, say people who are under investigation for serious mafia relations, too.
Right.
You know, our phone calls are harvested, our emails are harvested, we can't say certain words, or we can be investigated, all the digital communication, everything can be put together against us if so choose.
And honestly, you know, the problem with that is that you can take people's words out of context and make it look or sound like anything you want it to if you're willing to go to the trouble to do it.
Right.
So,
heck, Mike, every day on your radio show, you could go to jail.
Exactly. I mean, all they got to do is take the word peaceful that I used out of the massive civil disobedience and, you know, play that for a jury, and they can make it look like I said anything they want.
Right.
Really. I mean, that's the truth. So, folks, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back, and then we're going to take some phone calls from our audience. We'll be back in just a moment.
The Battery Station in West Plains is your headquarters for getting and being prepared. Natural disasters, civil unrest, personal and family protection, long-term sustenance, and most importantly, peace of mind. Berkey bottles and home-sized water purification systems, survival food, MREs, freeze-dried food, survival knives, lanterns, ammunition, military sleep system, and of course, batteries of all shapes and sizes. Take charge of your own survival and security. The Battery Station, 303 Washington in West Plains, 417-257-7799 or batterystation.com.
At Missouri State University West Plains, students are finding new beginnings and endless possibilities.
Hi, I am Lacey Mill, and I am a graduate of Missouri State West Plains. The faculty and staff at the West Plains campus go above and beyond what is required to help students. They were the key to my success.
Call Missouri State West Plains today to find out how we can help you achieve your educational goals. Registration is going on now, 255-7255. Or check us out on the web, wp.missouristate.edu.
Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pencil and jot down this special number.
Call 877-509-MY-TV.
The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. So, disable the cable and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for less money.
Call 877-509-MY-TV.
Right now to sign up for packages starting as low as $19.99 and up to 4 rooms. And there's no equipment to buy. That includes your free HD TV upgrade, your free DVR upgrade, and your free professional installation. And the best part, the pristine digital picture and sound.
Call 877-509-MY-TV.
So, what are you waiting for? Pull out your major credit or debit card.
Call 877-509-MY-TV. 877-509-MY-TV.
Disable the cable, cut costs, and get more.
Call 877-509-MY-TV. 877-509-MY-TV.
You know, it's disturbing enough that 20% of all government workers, 1 in 5, see the Tea Party as the nation's bigger threat. But when you compare that against the private sector, it's actually only 12% in the private sector. And so that tells you that, for all intents and purposes, I guess you can almost draw the conclusion that government is recruiting anti-Americans for roles and functions within that. And how many of those, those 20% are geared into jobs that are in policy-making positions or, have a position of influence and authority that can really do damage to general everyday Americans who they perceive to be a threat, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a scary thought,
Well, how many of those 20% of government employees that fear the Tea Party are employed by the Department of Homeland Security?
I don't know, and just that question alone, ought to raise a lot of eyebrows. Not just with Americans, on the conservative side of the fence. That ought to be raising the eyebrows of liberals, mm-hmm. Because what that tells you is that your own party has become radicalized. I hate to say it that way, but they're as radicalized as the Islamic, jihadists, right? It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like you can have an opinion so long as it's the same as mine.
Right, right. Sounds like Henry Ford. You can have any color you want as long as it's black.
It's black, right? Exactly.
Go ahead, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, that's okay. Go ahead, caller.
Go ahead, caller. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mike.
I told you I would open it up to callers for this last quarter or segment. So,
first of all, My father fought in World War II, and he did not jump out of an airplane over Belgium with people shooting at him so that the NSA could read my mail, telephonically, radio-wise, or otherwise.
Right.
You know, and there's probably millions of Americans in their grave that are roiling the dirt right now.
Absolutely. I mean, my own dad included. He went over to the Pacific and fought in Guadalcanal, and you know, I know that if he were alive today to see this, he would be destroyed by it.
Mm-hmm.
Really.
It's sorry times. I mean, it really is. But beyond that, I can see the dichotomy between government workers and the Tea Party, because government organizations expand to fulfill their own selves. I mean, they're engines that run themselves for their own reasons.
Yeah, it's like perpetual motion machine.
Yes. Mm-hmm. If there is such a thing, that's it.
Yeah, that's as close as you can get.
But you know that those people get a paycheck and they're voting their paycheck.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't even rationalize why they're doing it.
Well, and this report backs it up, because it does say that among those who earn six-figure incomes, 21% consider the Tea Party the bigger threat, while those who earn less than $30,000 a year only 12% of them see the Tea Party as the threat. So what that tells you is that those people who have higher incomes see the threat to their own personal, to their own personal.
And it really is that simple. I hate to say that, but it is.
Yeah, and let's be honest, a lot of those six-figure incomes are coming because they either work for the government or they work for for a company that is a government supplier, right?
I remember reading something that the 6 richest counties in the United States surround Washington, D.C. You know, people going in from the suburbs, going to their jobs in D.C., and then going back home.
Maryland is the number one income, per capita state in the nation for money, and that's in large part to the fact that everybody who lives in Maryland and Virginia, or at least within the close proximity of D.C., works for D.C. or some contractor immediately around the city or what have you. So,
right.
It's these are scary times, and I'm permanently stunned by the fact that so few people seem to even acknowledge that it's happening, much less care or be willing to.
We're fighting the soft war now. We are fighting the soft war right now.
Yeah, but it's hardening quickly.
It will never go beyond that. God forbid.
It's hardening quickly.
It's harsh beyond belief. You're right about that.
I mean, when we're talking about the massive buildup of arms, ammunition, and militarization of civilian law enforcement and these domestic organizations that are under the DHS, that stuff doesn't bode well for us peace-loving Americans.
Right, and the St. Louis police chief that wants to have drones patrolling
can you imagine?
the city.
We just passed a law against that.
Right.
We just passed it. I mean, I don't think the ink is actually dried on it yet, and this guy's already out there trying to buy a drone. And I posted a thing up on Facebook yesterday about how many police departments are using these license plate scanning cameras in their cars. And I mean, the opening paragraph of that story was absolutely stunning. There was a guy who went out and filed a Freedom of Information Act, and he found out that in the city where he lived, they'd captured his 2 cars on 112 occasions.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is just, so now they're tracking your movement based on GPS coordination of where the camera is at the moment it captured your plate. This is insane.
Right.
Well,
if people don't wake up now and defend their liberties now, they will have gone away from them, and then when they do want them, they'll be so far behind them they'll never catch back up with them again.
Ask the English about that, because they gave up their gun rights, and now that they want them back, they can't even get to the starting line, much less actually running in that race. So you're absolutely right, Glenn. Thank you for those comments. I appreciate it. He's absolutely right in that regard, and that is the perfect example, is the British now, who want their gun rights back because their society has descended into this danger zone that it's like living in Beirut to live in London.
Well, it's a surveillance society, and that is the issue. I mean, when we have no right to privacy.
But it's not preventing any of the violence. I mean, it may capture the guy who thunked you over the head with a wine bottle, but it doesn't actually prevent any of it. and I thought the whole point was to provide you with safety. Well, safety is a preventative act, not a post-action prosecution. So the whole thing is just so convoluted, and this is all just excuses. They have no intention of utilizing these systems to capture Islamic terrorists or anything along those lines. This is really all about how do we, monitor and use this system against Americans.
Right.
Go ahead, caller. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Mike. This is a Vietnam vet. We're fighting spiritual warfare. Think about this angle here.
All right.
Pick up a new horse trader and read page 27.
I saw that article on there. That guy who took that full page thing out about the Blueways. Is that the what you're talking about? Yep. Thank you.
I encourage you readers to pick that paper up, and also the Summersville Beacon has got a real good article by Doreen Hannes.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you so much for that update. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Summersville Beacon.
Thank you, Summersville Beacon, and the horse trader for putting that full page ad out there. Go ahead, caller. Welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning, Mike.
Good morning.
One thing I wanted to point out is that, and a lot of those people, when you talk about government employees and people thinking that the Tea Party is a threat, I would like to have the information on who it was and what agencies that poll was taken from. Because
it was just a phone poll done by Rasmussen.
Right.
I mean, all they do is they pick up the telephone and they call disparate areas of the country and they ask, your political affiliation, and then they ask the questions, record your answers, and hang up. So
right.
I can't,
I can tell you that, especially in the ranks of federal law enforcement, you have a lot of guys in there that raise their right hand, swore to uphold and defend, took action on it, served in the military before they went to someplace else in the feds. And so, the kind of abusive situation that you see right now in the IRS, people cannot speak out enough against that type of abuse being taken care of. But I think not so prevalent in other agencies that have a focus in doing other things because they don't have time to screw with Joe Blow, the taxpayer. They got too much important business to take care of on behalf of the citizens.
Well, sorry, what are you saying, that there's hidden patriots inside the system that just are unwilling to step up?
No, they're not hidden patriots in most cases, but I will tell you that everybody that goes into federal service is taught what the Hatch Act is. And when you talk about this lady, Lois Lerner, for example, she was, as a middle management person in the IRS, she was schooled as to what the Hatch Act is, and the Hatch Act absolutely forbids you to utilize your political thoughts and
position
in order to do anything which is under your authority.
Right.
And so she...
But you got to realize...
It's impossible to believe that she didn't know that what she was doing was against the law.
Yeah, but see, here's the problem. You've got everyone in this administration. This reminds me of the hearings yesterday in Jefferson City. These people came in there and they sat there and said, I don't know. It's not my issue. I don't know. I didn't do anything. Well, what? Let me tell you. I'll tell you why they did that. Because they just watched our federal elected representatives or federal appointed representatives or unaccountable people in the FBI and the IRS and all these other agencies, the NSA, do the same exact thing. And they take their cue from the top. Yeah. If you live in a household where your parents constantly fight or somebody's a drunk or they've got a bad habit, you pick that up as a child and you live with it, and that becomes the norm for you. It's the same thing with everybody else. It always starts from the top and works its way down. And whether it's a business or whether it's government or it's a family, all of these attitudes and opinions come from the top and work their way down.
Well, we're not in disagreement on that at all, but the only thing I want to do is I want to be critical about not painting all government employees with the same broad brush.
Well, I don't think we did that. We said that 20% of them say that the Tea Party is a greater threat than Islamic terrorism. So I don't think we did say that. And I agree that there's...
I agree. The fish rots from the head down, and look who we got at the head right now.
There you go. Thanks for the
guys,
call.
Good show.
Thank you.
So that's the end of our morning together, Doreen.
All right, Mike. Well, I'll get about my other business.
All right.
Blessings on all your listeners today and you.
Thank you so much. Folks, that was Doreen Hannes joining us as she does every Friday. You can find us at americasvoicenow.org. You can find our website at there and find our Facebook page at facebook.com/America's Voice Now. And capture this and every other show that we do on YouTube at youtube.com/America's Voice Now. See you tomorrow morning bright and early. Have a great day.
We are the Ozarks' best news talk, KBMV Birch Tree.